Did you? I assume you saw our video, right? About
Yes.
Reddit shilling, right? One of the things that a recurring theme in the comments and people who contacted us was that in politics, in particular Donald's and the Clinton subreddits, there was a lot of what we were doing going on. So astroturfing, shilling, that kind of thing. Have you, as a moderator for our politics, have you seen that kind of thing happen? And do you try and stamp it out?
Problem with it is identifying it. It's hard to tell what is a fake and bot account versus a legitimate account that, they only post links, or they have a very new account. How do you know that's not a guy next door that just got on Reddit today and he's excited to start joining up? There are some that are obvious that, yes, we absolutely take care of. It is glaringly obvious that, they only post 95% from the Huffington Post. Okay, we can grab that. But beyond that, it's hard to discern without a lot of help from admins that can go in there and see what IP addresses have been logging in, what have these IP addresses logged into other accounts, do they have similar posting patterns there? As moderators alone, it's not easy.
And do you think, as it's not easy, do you think it's easy for someone to go in and to game this subreddit?
If you know what you're doing, it can be done. You can go on and if you buy a 4 to 5 year old account with plenty of karma, that immediately rules out a lot of suspicion. Those are the first couple of things that a moderator looks at, is how much karma do they have and how old is the account. The next step is looking at, are they participating in the comments? Do these look like organic comments? And then are they posting from a diverse set of sites? And once you do all that, you look like a normal user and you can't tell. As a moderator, without the tools to go in and dig into the IP address, you just can't tell.
How widespread do you think it is?
No idea. Honestly, I know I can Google buy Reddit accounts on the internet and see people being able to buy Reddit accounts. I have alternate accounts that are years old, and I know they exist and they can be bought. But beyond that, it's just you can't know.
How do you think that affects Reddit as a platform? Because if you as a moderator can't tell how widespread it is, and you recognise how easy it is to game, does that therefore not make Reddit as a platform a bit redundant? Because lots of people could be doing it, and God knows what percentage of posts are fake or marketing or whatever. You have to sort of treat everything with caution in that scenario.
The thing is still, the community is going to determine what makes it to the top with upvotes and downvotes. And I saw the TED Talk guy talking about, if he upvotes something, it's more likely to be upvoted than downvoted. Artificially move it up or down. That weighting of the first 10 seconds of voting versus a minute of voting versus 10 minutes of voting, those votes have different weight within that amount of time. But at the end of the day, if you do the Donald subreddit, a very one-track mind subreddit, they're going to upvote Donald stuff that is good pro-Donald Trump and downvote stuff that's against Donald Trump. You can't buy enough votes to send something to the top of that subreddit that they don't want at the top of that subreddit. They will very quickly vote you down. So you still, even with buying votes, you have to have something that's liked by the community. Otherwise, it's still going to plummet. You all posted the Narcos video. I remember that being at the top of the subreddit. I'm pretty sure I watched the trailer going, oh yeah, I've been thinking about this show. If people don't have the interest, it's not going to be at the top, no matter how much voting you buy.
We did post the Brexit story in our United Kingdom subreddit, which is a very pro-Remain subreddit, and that made it to number 2, despite lots of downvotes. So, I think if you have the right amount of votes and they come in at the right amount of time, the right speed,
if you buy enough votes in that early weighted period, you can definitely swing things that the community would expect. But I would be curious if you all go in. I think the Dawn will be an outstanding test, because you can go in there and try something and just see how it goes.
How many fake threads do you think you're removing? Or how many fake posts do you think you're removing on average?
On average, not just a ton, just because, like I said, it's hard to see how many there actually are. So, a standard, whenever you're sorting by new to go start moderating stuff, you get 25 posts that you look at. And then to see if it's a fake story, you have to really dive into user history. That's how you're going to find that kind of stuff. And that's not something everyone's always going to do. That's an extra step, and it really will slow down flying through that queue, getting things approved or removed. By needing to go into there to look at the user history, that's going to slow you down. So what we do, and I won't tell which subreddits because it'll give away some kind of back end stuff, but in one of the subreddits I moderate, we actually have a bot that will fire on if a user is too young and posting from the same link multiple or from the same URL multiple times. So if they're greater than X percentage and their karma is X and their age is X, then the bot will start firing and it'll leave a report. And at that point, we can see, okay, we need to look into this user history a little bit more. But if they meet all those requirements, we're just never going to look at it. That's not something you're thinking about. You're thinking about enforcing the rules of, is this story linked from a good site? Is it matching title rules? Is it on topic? Is it about a sports story? Is it about a politics story? Is it essentially civil? That kind of stuff. But as for, out of 25, 1 or 2 or 3, I mean, just not a lot.
Do you think, going back to Correct the Record, do you think that many of the accusations are that Correct the Record was doing what we were doing, which is buying votes and accounts and placing stories in there and having lots of pro-Hillary Redditors come on and just wipe out any pro-Bernie Redditors? Do you think that's accurate?
This is something we've already announced out of the politics subreddit, so I'm not really revealing anything new here. That's something in politics we don't like to go out and unilaterally represent the whole community. But one of the things we've already announced is that we did find a big group of accounts. They were first name _ last name and then some number, and they matched that username pattern. And from that username pattern, they were very obviously up to something. And we ended up reporting that to the admins. They ran some kind of search on their end and banned thousands of names, hundreds of names, thousands of names. I don't know the exact number, but there was something that they did about that from that account block farm, whatever was going on there. And yeah, there was something there, and we did report that and send it up the chain. But as far as the rest of CTR influence, yeah, it could have been there, or yeah, it could have just been the liberal leaning of Reddit. And that's what I think is more than anything, is that Reddit as a site leans liberal, and people vote their politics. I mean, I'm one of the few conservative mods on politics, and I'd be the first guy in there to beat down on anyone if we had CTR on the mod team or anyone was acting out, and it wasn't a thing. There was nothing on the mod team. For the users, though, it goes back to, it's just hard to tell.
Tell me about what happened with the Donald and your CEO going and changing comments. What do you think about that?
I think he really made a mistake there. Of all, the CEO should not have access to that kind of system. The CEO is there to run the business, run the personnel, run not even the day-to-day. That's a chief operating officer kind of job, but just the overarching vision of the company. He should not have low-level database access to change that kind of stuff. With Reddit, you actually, it's one of the fun facts that I don't think a lot of people know, but you can't change your username because the way it's written into the database, they're making calls to it. You can't actually change the username. There's no functionality for that kind of thing. And so this is a very old database that I think he actually did a lot of the writing on. But he shouldn't have access to that kind of thing, just because things like that shouldn't be toyed with. It defeats a lot of I was looking, Alexa, I'm going to turn my Alexa on. The Alexa ranking thing is, it ranks Reddit as number 7. It's not a small website. And for the CEO to be able to go in there and change comments of, even then, a political slanted subreddit is horrible press. That is such a bad idea from so many levels. I get why he did it. He was trolling the trolls, whatever. Still not a good idea. And he rightfully was scorned for that situation.
Do you think there's a fundamental problem with Reddit where we can game it like we have done, others obviously clearly do, as well as the CEO can go in and mess around? Do you think there's a problem here that Reddit is not tackling?
I think Reddit has problems. I don't know if the CEO being able to edit comments is it, because there's so many tools that you can look at that can see when they're changed. The second he went and edited comments, they were able to hop on a Wayback Machine, archive.is.org. I don't know what the URL is, but they were able to hop on Wayback Machine, see what those comments used to be, go, okay, those comments were edited. We were all bad-mouthing Spez. It was probably him. And there's ways to check that kind of thing. So as far as them being able to really low-level edit a comment or a title or even the voting algorithm to affect that kind of thing, I don't think that's going to sway things. As far as the voting algorithm in general, there is a lot to be done. In the politics subreddit, one of the biggest problems is that partisan voting. You're going to upvote stuff that you like and downvote stuff that goes against. If it's a right-sided, right-leaning kind of article, it's not going to get to the top. One of the bigger problems we had was during late November, December, Trump would go out and nominate someone for Secretary of State, Attorney General, these big roles. Rex Tillerson, Jeff Sessions. These guys are going to be setting major policy for our country for the next 4 years, and they're not getting to the top of the politics subreddit because they said Trump nominated a guy, and that's too right-leaning, and that's the kind of stuff that needs to be at the top of politics. When the future president-elect nominates a guy who's going to be in charge of our entire Justice Department, that's the kind of discussion you want. Instead, because it said Trump did something that wasn't bad, it's not going to ever get to the top, and that's not good. How you fix that voting algorithm, though, I don't know. Because it's very good at sorting comments. You can see all the bad comments, sorting precedence features on other sites like YouTube or just Yahoo Comments. These kind of sites that are just real bad at parsing what's a good comment and what's a bad comment. And Reddit's very good at getting rid of the crap and throwing it all to the bottom and all the good stuff floating to the top. If someone makes a good comment that really lays out the points about the importance of debt chairs versus, it can be as goofy as whatever, but if it's a good comment, it'll be at the top. But at the same time, partisan voting really, really screws with that algorithm. And there's a lot of stuff that could be fixed with it. I don't even know where to begin with it because it's certainly not an easy fix.
Yeah, as a Reddit politics mod, do you think you and the rest of the mods are doing a good job at making sure that shilling isn't happening? Do you think you've got a grip of it on that sub?
I think we're doing as best as we can with the tools we have available. We're able to look at user history and stuff and determine a lot of it. But as far as doing it on a large, politics is the second busiest subreddit behind the Donald on Reddit. There's a lot going on. There's always something that can be done on the politics subreddit. And there's a lot of volume. As far as stopping everything, there's nothing the moderators will ever be able to do. All we can see is the user history. That's going to have to come from the admin side of things. Just nothing we can do.
So if I told you that we'd managed to penetrate the politics sub with 20 different stories that were completely fake and have not been picked up and have stayed there for weeks on end, what would you say?
I'd be curious to see them just because we actually have a thing that kind of calls some stuff after 3 days. But honestly, if it's fake news and it was of a liberal leaning, I can see a lot of it being missed. I can.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a shame. And yeah, we've gotten a lot of reports about fake news, but the reports haven't been good. They've been partisan reports of, if anything is pro-Trump and even slightly misleading, we get reports for fake news. And a lot of the liberal stuff will go unreported because they see the headline, they see that Trump has wronged them in this way, or that Hillary's going to run for New York City mayor and she still has a chance in the politics world. Then that's all they're going to see, and they're not going to report it as well. They're kind of blind to it. And we operate a lot on user reports. If it's not reported by a user, the volume is just too big for us to see.
And this is something Reddit needs to give you better tools to deal with. That's what Gallo said to us. They need better tools to handle this stuff.
Absolutely. There was a blackout. Shoot, what was that? September 2015, October 2015, sometime fall 2015, where a lot of major subreddits blacked out to say we need better tools. And we got a new mod mail. We've got a fair amount of new stuff. but it's not perfect yet. It's still, I mean, a lot of communities rely a lot on bot makers, guys that can sit in their home and set up a little server, little desktop CPU to go run through a bunch of rules that they've already set out and enforce a lot of the rules automatically. Because without that, the scale is just too big. Reddit is a majorly popular site, and the moderators don't have all the tools they can use.
Tell me about the bots again.
So you can honestly look on just about any major subreddit, and there'll be some account called bot. So on politics, it's politics moderator bot. On the sports subreddit, it's called Sentinel. On the Earth porn, that kind of community where they're just posting pretty pictures, it's like called Porn Overlord, which is kind of a funny name. And these are the kind of bots that are going through and enforcing rules. For our bot, it can go look at titles, it can look at dates, it can look at the user history and leave reports. In the sports subreddit, it's looking for a lot of YouTube spam. And don't want to delve into too much of what our stuff does, but those bots, they prop up a lot of communities. Without them, the workload would be just too insane.
So is there an issue then with these bots that they could easily remove stuff that's probably legitimate because it's a bot? The human element of modding is what makes modding, right? So if the bot is in there removing stuff, then does that not mean a lot of people get cold when they shouldn't do?
No, because for example, again, something else that's public, we had our bot removing title. It was enforcing title rules. If we have a rule in our subreddit, just because people were politicizing the titles, that the title must be the exact headline, no more, no less. And so that's something that's pretty easily enforced by a bot. It goes, looks at the site, says, this is the title, looks at the post and says, is that the title? And if they match, cool, great. And if not, remove it. I mean, that's a pretty objective standard. Same thing for dates. Go find the date in the URL slug or underneath the whatever H2 tag or wherever they're looking. Is the date within 30 days? Yes, no. And those are pretty objective things that don't have to be looked at. In the sports subreddit, we're calling a lot of YouTube spam. That's kind of a lot what gets caught over there. And so every time something gets added for that bot to watch for, it's all done by a human element. So either it's going to be an objective removal that can just be pushed out into the world and is really hands off, or it's going to be it's looking for individual things that a human moderator has already told it to look for. So no, it's usually they're removing pretty innocuous things. There's not going to be any bots that are doing the major enforcement of a subreddit.
So without these bots, do you think your job would be significantly more difficult?
It'd be significantly more difficult and a lot more boring, a lot more monotonous. Some of these rules that the bots are enforcing, they're just boring to go in and look at all day in, day out. Our bot catches most of the date stuff. And if it's not within 30 days, it'll grab it. It'll grab anything that's already been submitted to the community. It'll automatically remove it if it doesn't get enough karma so that someone else can submit it and see if it'll get more karma. And these are kind of things. Otherwise, I mean, these big moments like Trump nominates someone, Trump wins the election, these big moments, last night in sports, college football, this was one. If these bots weren't looking for previously submitted articles or X or Y, then you're just going to get flooded. So yes, it would also make the job significantly more difficult.
Do you think Reddit cares about the how difficult the job is for mods, but also the issue of shilling as well? We didn't get an official response, and it seems to me as if they're just more concerned with battling the flames than they were actually tackling the issue.
I wouldn't say that's a bad description. They mean very well. Some of the admins that I work with fairly closely, they see the problems, they're out working, but they're kind of more of the front line helping the moderators out when they can. And that was one of the things we were able to get from that blackout is good working relationships with the admins. And I genuinely think those admins care and they want to fix things, but they're not the ones working on the back end that's going to be looking for these shill accounts and building moderator tools. That's going to be a different team that's less public. We don't interact with as much. Do they see the problem? I'm sure they see the problem. I'm sure they see the problem better than I do, but it's still a company that's got to I don't know, they have shareholders. They're not public. I think they got private shareholders, but they've got to essentially earn their private shareholders' money, and they have a different focus. Anything they do for the moderators isn't going to have a publicly immediately visible effect on the front page, because we're already taking care of it for the most part, at least as far as is visibly seen. And if they work on the back end tools and implement a new thing that checks, did this account get posted on some website where you can buy an account that meets each subreddit's secret rules for how to post? If they can start monitoring for that kind of stuff, yes, it'll make a difference. It won't make any publicly visible difference, I don't believe.
So the bottom line, the financial bottom line, won't be improved if they dealt with shilling.
Which is frustrating.
Yeah, so it's not their concern. They're happy to let it continue until their shareholders start losing money from it.
And that's the way businesses work, and I understand it and I respect it. It's a little frustrating though when, as a moderator, I see what problems we have, but I also respect that they have problems that I'm sure we don't see.
There has never been a more important time to support independent media and investigative journalism. So if you like the work we do, then subscribe to our channel, send us tips, and most importantly, if you can, pledge to our Patreon and help keep us going and keep us uncovering these stories. Cheers.